So recently I was doing what I call life math, which is where somebody mentions like a specific time and you calculate where were you in life at that point in time? What were you doing? What was your life like that year or that date, whatever that may be? In this scenario, somebody mentioned 2017. So I started thinking through what was my life in 2017. And I realized that was before a specific situation had happened in my life. And it got me thinking how there are things that we mark in our lives as like, this is before this event, or this is after that event. We think about things like 9/11 in the United States. Things changed after 9/11. Air travel changed significantly after 9/11. So there's before, there's after. There's before COVID, there's after COVID. There's these marked moments in our life after which nothing seems to be the same. And for me, in this scenario, they brought up 2017. So I start thinking through, who was I in 2017? What was life like in 2017? I was still teaching. I had gone on this incredible solo trip during spring break, and I spent 10 days on the West Coast in the Bay Area, and it was amazing for me. It was so good for me. I had conversations with the Lord. I got to go see the Warriors play at Oracle Arena, and this was like when Kevin Durant was still, it was like the squad, right? Kevin Durant was still on the team. I had courtside seats at Oracle Arena. That was huge for me. So there were all these great things that happened on the trip, but the biggest thing was it was a time where the Lord really began to kind of download some things, like speak on things that he wanted to do in my life and things about my future. And then there's after that year. There's also this moment where I think about 2017 is before I met someone in my life that was really significant, that would cause a lot of heartache and a lot of pain in my life. And I started realizing I kind of think of my life before this person and then my life after this person. And the fact that I'd had this incredible trip where the Lord had shown me all of these amazing things in my life that he wanted to do, I wasn't in 2017, I wasn't the person that could handle those things. I didn't become that person until after I met this other person. And even though that relationship caused a lot of damage personally for me, he's a great person, but caused a lot of, it wasn't a great relationship, and it caused a lot of damage for me, and it caused a lot of heartache for me. And because of that, the things I walked through, the way I walked through them, the people that walked through it with me, all of that helped make me into the person now that can handle the things God showed me in 2017 before I even knew that person existed. There's this thing with spiritual maturity. When we mature spiritually, we start to understand that we can't create the dreams and the visions that God shows us. Instead, the best thing that we can do is just agree with him and allow him to reveal those things and allow him to accomplish those things by giving him our yes. But 2017 me spent the next 5 years after she met this person, spent the next 5 years trying to force what I had seen in those dreams and in those visions that he gave me when I was in the San Francisco area. I think when we talk about the before and after of our life, God promises in Jeremiah 29:11, we quote it all the time. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope in a future, not to harm you. I got that out of order, but that's the promise. And we love to quote that verse. But what we forget about is that this was spoken to a people who were being exiled into Babylon. And in the middle of that difficulty and that pain, in Jeremiah 29:10, he says, after 70 years, I will bring you back from this. I know you don't want to be where you're going right now, but after 70 years, I'll bring you back from all of this, because I know the plans I have for you. They are plans to prosper you, to give you hope, and to give you a good future. This is what God tells us. And I think about the book of Job, where we read for like 40 chapters, all of this stuff that Job has taken from him, and all of the things that he has to endure, and the people that stand by him, and then the people that question him, and the wife that tells him he should just curse God and die in the middle of all of this. And yet, through all of that, there comes a point where a double portion comes. But the double portion, I think if Job were sitting here having this conversation with us, I feel like he would want us to know, notice this. Notice that before God gives the double portion, Job speaks to God after all of the stuff that he's gone through, the wrestling with the Lord, the stripping away of everything good and comfortable that he had in his life. His health, his children, his livestock, his wife, all of it gone. And he's left with these friends that aren't really that great and aren't really that helpful. And then he has these full-on conversations with God where God is like, look, where were you? You want to challenge me? I'm going to speak to you like a man. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Where were you when I told the seas they could only come this far? Tell me if you think you know more than me. That's God speaking to Job. After having all of this wrestling, we get excited about the double portion that the Lord promises to Job, and that he delivers on that promise, by the way. But if Job were sitting here now and having this conversation with us, I feel like he would want us to know, before you read the double portion, pay attention to what I learned. The double portion comes after the lesson, when we read that Job says to God, now I know that you are truly God, and no plan of yours can be thwarted. The lesson comes before the portion for Job. If Paul were sitting here, let's go New Testament. Paul's having this conversation with us. We're sitting in Romans, in the book of Romans, and we hear Paul telling us, look, everything's going to work together for the good of those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. But notice, if Paul were here, I think he'd say, notice it isn't for your good. It isn't for your individual good and your definition of what that good is, but it says for the good. There's a common good that we're all after by being children of God, by being in the will of God. And that will work for your personal good too, but it's not about you. It's about serving the mission. It's about serving him, the good of the plan. And so I guess I would leave you with this. If you're in a situation where you are processing something that happened before and you're living in the aftermath of a marked moment in your life, keep going, because there is good coming. There might even be a double portion coming. But we have to trust the character that is being developed in us in these seasons. While we're here, while we're working on all of this, and while God is working on us, there's a character that he has to craft in us to be able to hold the portion that he wants to give us. He doesn't want to just hand it to us and let it pass through our fingers. He wants us to be able to hold on and to be able to sustain the blessing that he gives us. 2017 me could not, A, not have imagined what I'm doing now, and B, could not have handled what I'm doing now, because there was a lot of learning I did after I met that person in those 5 years of trying to make something happen, trying to force what God had shown me. There was a lot of lesson learning that happened, and even more that happened in the aftermath of that. So keep going and keep learning and keep letting him craft your character, because I do believe that he, Jesus, is a portion that we all are promised. And there's more for us because he loves us each individually. But we have to be able to hold what's coming after.